The Arctic grayling was once the dominant species in several rivers of Michigan's Upper Peninsula. Recognizable by its iridescent scales and distinctive sail-like dorsal fin, this cold-water fish thrived in the region's fast-flowing, well-oxygenated streams for thousands of years. Indigenous communities and early explorers described rivers teeming with grayling, an indicator to pristine conditions that sustained them. However, a few decades after the earliest settler observations, grayling populations in Michigan collapsed due to a combination of overexploitation and habitat destruction, ultimately leading to their local extinction. Today, conservation efforts are underway to restore this species to its historic range. Grayling were once abundant in Michigan's Ausable, Manistee, and Ontonagon river systems, among many others, and indigenous groups, including the Ojibwa, relied on grayling as a food source, harvesting them sustainably for generations. However, with settler pressures of the 19th century, grayling quickly became a target for both commercial and recreational fishing. Market demand for fresh fish led to extensive harvests, and grayling were shipped in large quantities to cities like Chicago, New York, and Detroit. Sports anglers also sought grayling, known for their fight and unique beauty, catching them in vast numbers without regulations to prevent overfishing. The logging industry exacerbated the decline. By the late 19th century, widespread deforestation stripped rivers of essential shade cover, leading to increased water temperatures that grayling could not tolerate. And logging companies used rivers to transport timber, disrupting natural stream flow and destroying spawning grounds as riverbeds became clogged with debris. Then sawmills further polluted the waterways by dumping sawdust and waste, severely depleting oxygen levels, suffocating aquatic life. Early conservation efforts attempted to reverse the decline, and hatchery programs were established in the late 1800s to restock grayling. But these initiatives failed to compensate for the continued habitat destruction. Additionally, the introduction of trout species, such as brook, brown, and rainbow trout, created new competition for food and habitat. By the mid-1930s, the Arctic grayling was extinct in Michigan's waters. The disappearance of grayling from Michigan's rivers was one of the early examples of human-driven extinction in North America. However, in recent years, conservationists, fisheries, biologists, and tribal organizations have joined forces to reintroduce grayling to the state's waters. The Michigan Department of Natural Resources, in collaboration with the Little River Band of Ottawa Indians and various conservation groups, have launched an ambitious multi-year project aimed at re-establishing self-sustaining grayling populations, rearing juvenile grayling at the Marquette State Fish Hatchery. The hatchery receives fertilized eggs from Montana's grayling populations, known for their genetic diversity and adaptability. Then, once the eggs hatch, the fish are raised under controlled conditions with advanced techniques, including exposure to simulated stream environments, predator avoidance training, and controlled feeding schedules to enhance survival rates after release. Once they are mature enough for release, researchers have carefully selected and targeted a series of rivers for grayling reintroduction based on water quality, temperature stability, and historical distribution data. The goal is to establish populations that can eventually sustain themselves without human intervention. The primary rivers identified for reintroduction include Manistee River, a historically significant grayling river with ideal cold water habitat and stable flow rates; Boardman River, an extensively restored waterway offering excellent conditions for juvenile grayling survival; Jordan River, a designated blue ribbon trout stream providing cold, clear waters with minimal habitat disturbance; Ausable River, once home to some of the largest grayling populations in the state, now being studied for future stocking efforts; Big Creek and Maple River, smaller tributaries selected for experimental stockings to evaluate juvenile survival and recruitment potential; To ensure the success of these introductions, biologists are implementing habitat restoration projects including stream bank stabilization, removal of invasive species, and improvements to gravel spawning beds. These efforts aim to create the ideal conditions necessary for grayling to thrive in the long term. In 2024, initial stocking efforts began, with thousands of juvenile grayling introduced into select river systems. Biologists are using passive integrated transponder or PIT tagging and acoustic telemetry to track individual fish movement, habitat preferences, and survival rates. Early data suggests that grayling are adapting well to their new environments, with promising survival rates in key locations. The Little River Band of Ottawa Indians continues to play a leading role in these efforts, bringing traditional ecological knowledge and community-driven conservation practices to the forefront. Their fisheries experts are actively involved in monitoring stocked populations, ensuring that the reintroduction process aligns with both scientific data and Indigenous resource stewardship values. The Ottawa tribes have also contributed to habitat restoration efforts by stabilizing stream banks, reintroducing native vegetation, and implementing long-term watershed protection strategies to maintain water quality essential for grayling survival. Looking ahead to 2025, the program plans to expand stocking efforts across additional river systems, increasing the total number of fish released, but the primary focus will be to assess reproductive success, as self-sustaining populations are the ultimate goal of the project. Tribal fisheries teams will continue collaborating with the Michigan Department of Natural Resources and academic researchers to refine stocking techniques, monitor ecosystem interactions, and ensure that the newly introduced populations are thriving. Additionally, ongoing climate assessments are being conducted to evaluate how temperature fluctuations and extreme weather events may impact long-term grayling viability. Researchers are developing adaptive management strategies that allow for flexible responses to ecological changes in the face of future environmental challenges. The participation of Ottawa tribal leaders in climate resilience discussions will further enhance these strategies, incorporating Indigenous perspectives on water stewardship and ecosystem health. Looking to the future, the reintroduction of Arctic grayling in Michigan represents a significant step forward in fisheries restoration. If successful, it will bring back an iconic native species, but also serve as a model for future conservation efforts aimed at reversing genetic diversity loss due to human activity. The collaborative nature of the project, bringing together state agencies, tribal nations, conservationists, and researchers, demonstrates a holistic approach to ecological restoration. Beyond its ecological benefits, the return of the grayling also holds cultural and historical significance. Indigenous communities whose ancestors once relied on this species will see the return of an important element of their natural heritage. Anglers and outdoor enthusiasts will once again have the opportunity to witness and appreciate the beauty of grayling in Michigan's waters. And with continued research, adaptive management, and public support, shimmering grayling may once again rise and flourish in the rivers of Michigan's Upper Peninsula.